Oh, God! What am I supposed to do? I want to go back!
It's a very long and peculiar story.
I'd like to know more than the tavern on the green and the forge. Maybe I'll travel a bit before settling down.
Meet new people.
Meet them or beat them. Meet! Then you've no need to learn swordplay. You know the trouble with an adventurous life, sir? It can end before it gets started. I might teach you how to handle a sword, and then someone will shoot you with a crossbow as soon as you set foot outside the house.
Perhaps. But who knows what the future holds for each of us.
Look! I see it.
We've got to go.
I see the light.
And so here lies our broken hero. He clings to life with his head full of horrors, and once again at the mercy of medicine. Bojena is successful in bandaging the body, but the mind, well, that is far from mended. In this ultra-hardcore playthrough of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I'll be exploring a life unforged. To put it plainly, the rules for this challenge will be no food, no metal, no sleep, and no coin. In addition to the usual hardships of a full perk hardcore run, welcome to Henry Unforged.
Before I bleed out.
Now awake and with bleeding abated, Henry is starving, but months of drinking away his feelings have left his stomach unable to process solid food. She did mention some booze.
A home-brewed liquor.
Should be out on the table, so I think that's what we're gonna eat.
There's something for you on the
You said there was wine?
Oof. I'm as hungry as a wolf.
I know, she promised wine. She said.
Home-brewed liquor.
Oh, God!
Desperate and weak, Henry turns to the dead for reprieve. This poor sap, we could take all this gear. The bandit doesn't have much to offer him, unfortunately, just a skin full of water and some tattered clothing, which means we can now discuss rule number 2, no metal, or to put it more accurately, no forged items. You see, when Henry touches or tries to use things that remind him of the forge, he is stricken with grief and internal panic. Metal weapons like swords, axes, and maces will be strictly off limits. Henry also won't be wearing any plate armor. But this trauma, it runs deeper still. There'll be no lockpicks, no repair kits, even no keys. That said, there will be some exceptions. Things like this belt with a buckle on it will be allowed. Henry would simply tie a belt without a buckle if given the choice, so we're going to call these things cosmetic metal, as they aren't really integral to the function and don't affect the item's statistics. One big exception, however, one that will very quickly become relevant, is alchemy. Yes, there is a large forged metal pot as part of the alchemy bench, and it is indeed integral to its function. However, to put a legitimate lore reasoning to this exception, I would like to point out that alchemy has twice saved Henry's life. And besides, he'll need alchemy if he wishes to keep the young Lord Capon alive.
Don't be like a naughty child and do what I tell you.
Well, she won't let me not eat. So let's just go. Let's get these herbs. And so, Henry sets out to get herbs and brew up some relief for his infirmed friend.
Fuck!
Despite the bad back, Henry finds solace in picking flowers and brewing them into moonshine, schnapps, and other various concoctions. Upon return, there seems to be some sort of trouble.
Something have happened at Bojena's.
Oh, something happened at Bojena's. Henry knows he must intervene, but he's gonna have to do so without the assistance of the nearby axe.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gonna feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes on the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted.
With a rush of adrenaline, and before the other guy can fully react, Henry gets to work, beating him into submission. The bandit tries to run away, but Henry can't risk him bringing any reinforcements, or losing out on that sweet green shirt. Henry likes green shirts, you see. That moonshine, yes, thank you. And the meat, beautiful. Okay. A bone comb, we could use that. With the threat now handled, Henry gets to work brewing for Bojena. Brought a little extra. Ideally, I can, who killed the... Must have been Growler. Or I ran over it. Can I butcher? I won't eat it. Oh, but it's a knife. But I don't get to choose that knife. I just have a knife. We can pretend that's a bone knife or a stone knife. I suppose it's technically fine. Uh-oh. 18 health. Sitting here talking about the merits of butchering a hare while I bleed out. Bojena waiting for me to make some life-saving remedy for for Sir Hans Capon. Let's get in here. It felt like old times, really. Back in Rattay, Henry spent countless hours at the alchemy bench, learning everything he could from Konyash. And in no time, Henry served up a perfect potion for Hans.
I'd say you brewed it perfectly. You need the rest after everything that happened.
The thought of sleep filled Henry with dread. It only ever brings nightmares, reminders of everything that he's lost. Thoughts of Tankard, of Oates, and of those two other guys. Looking to avoid his pain and in desperate need of nourishment, Henry spends the next countless hours at that bench hoping to brew until morning, but morning never seemed to come. It was as if time was standing still, out of sync. The universe was demanding sleep, and Henry had no choice but to begrudgingly obey. As Henry drifts off to his next nightmare, rule number 3 will take effect. After tonight, no sleeping or skipping time. Letting his mind wander, well, that leads to dark thoughts, and so Henry must keep himself always in the present moment.
Don't disappoint me.
Wake up, Henry. It's past sunrise.
While the night was rough, the morning had brought with it some much-needed catharsis. Pavlena really helped to soothe Henry's tortured mind, and it somehow left him feeling more self-assured than he had in a while. Henry took some time to reflect on himself. Perk points! From the person that he'd like to become. What can we get? You see, the life of an adventurer was going about as poorly as his father had warned, and he was starting to see the appeal of honing a craft. Can't repair anything myself? Sure, father meant blacksmithing, but it seemed the alchemy bench is where Henry felt the most at home these days, and so that would be his way forward. That's a pretty good place to start. Going outside, it was clear that Hans was very much back to his old self, eager to feast and tell endless stories of his noble adventures.
Almost a nobleman, sir.
Henry, interested in neither breakfast nor nostalgia, wanted to do something to show his gratitude for everything that these two women did for him. He had little to offer, unfortunately, and so he asked Bajana for a piece of bone so that he may craft a knife. He thought, at the very least, that he could provide them a stockpile of meat and mushrooms. There were many a mushroom during his morning forage and was basically tripping over the hare. That was cursed. To the point where he wondered if Bajana was drugging the poor animals to make them easier to hunt. Who needs arrows? Henry was never much of a cook, and it didn't help that he found the food repulsive. He powered through, however, and even worked up the courage to sample on some meat juices. After cooking everything, he decided to put it all in the pantry to be discovered later. Enjoy your food. Hopefully a pleasant surprise.
Are you dead?
Hans was fairly impatient and kept beckoning for Henry to join the table.
Good morning, Henry.
With many stories and much gratitude exchanged, Hans decided it was finally time to get going. Feeling unprepared for the journey, Henry decided to once more take advantage of the alchemy bench. You see, with the unknown lying ahead, it was important for him to stock up, not only because this was his source of food, but it was also his source of trade. That is insane. And so, as Henry and Hans set off towards Trotsky, we can discuss our final rule for this playthrough: no coin. Skalitz folk know firsthand what men are willing to do for silver. And a previous investigation into counterfeiting led Henry to briefly become a monk, where he learned the value and a vow of poverty. Throughout this playthrough, Henry will be receiving groschen as a reward for jobs well done. He may keep it, store it up, and even watch his earnings grow, but he may never spend it. Understanding the value in real, tangible things, Henry commits to a barter economy. These trades must be balanced with no groschen owed in either direction.
That's a decent price.
And if you're wondering, yes, this will exclude him from paid services. He may not request things like repairs, training, or bathhouses. With an unsuccessful journey to the Trotsky Castle completed, the boys have now found themselves in a small tavern in the town of Troskowitz. Before he could think about anything else, Henry needed a proper drink. Getting cleaned up, Henry was hopeful he could strike a deal with the indignant innkeeper. But Betty,
I've got other things to do.
well, she couldn't be bothered to make eye contact while telling him to clear off. Alright, the stress from his travels were starting to overwhelm, and so he did the only thing he could to try and relax. Pick flowers. It helped. His mind started to clear, but his back was breaking under the weight of all that inventory.
We're back.
Looking around for relief, Henry spotted a bird's nest in the nearby tree, and remembered an old apothecary trick he learned back in Rattay. Now unburdened, Henry thought it time to speak with the woman he saw back at the pond, and so he removed his shirt, hoping to be better
Sorry to bother
recognized.
you, but I've seen you before.
It wasn't the most fruitful interaction, but at least, with her now gone, Betty was freed up to help another customer. Betty didn't see Henry as a customer, however, just a lowlife with a debt to settle. Henry had plenty of potions, and was hoping to trade them off to settle the debt and even pick up some beer, mead, or whatever else she may have on offer. Unfortunately, she doesn't buy potions. Betty refused to do business with Henry, not interested in a single thing he had to trade. That's very disappointing. I was hoping to get drunk. Now, Henry was a good boy. We might have to steal, mostly, but right now the disappointment was just too much to bear. Needing to numb the pain of recent days and powerless to his addiction, Henry found himself stealing from Betty that day. He cleared all the beer found on her shelves and even managed to find some mead and wine. Trying to act natural, Henry pretended to socialize with the various patrons, but it didn't take long for Betty to discover the missing ale.
Well, it was he.
As panic set in, she noticed all he could think to do was run. What would happen to him and to Hans should he get pegged for this stupid and reckless crime? I might be in trouble. Desperate to save himself, an idea was formed. We're gonna drink the evidence. This might just work. After all, how can one be caught with stolen booze if the booze was nowhere to be found?
Greetings.
Henry acts quickly
You
to
the bailiff,
defuse
son?
this dire situation.
Who are you?
You see, Svatia was the only law enforcement at the tavern right now. If Henry could keep him distracted, then he might just manage to avoid
You
punishment.
can try.
As Betty finally gives up her search, fortune smiles harder still by presenting Henry with an opportunity.
You'd have to beat me first.
If he could just win this one game, all his problems would be solved. That's a lot of sixes. Now the dice, they were certainly on his side today, but the universe,
God, it's not that easy, you know.
not so much.
I can't just invite every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
It seems karma had come to balance its books, denying Henry his due reward. But with that door closed, all signs pointed to one last open window. Up until now, Henry did all he could to ignore the man sitting across from the miller. Just seeing that apron made his eyes well up and his face go flush. If not for this drunken state, Henry would be crying in a corner right now. But, emboldened by the beers, Henry manages to stumble over and talk to the two tradesmen.
You say?
It's uncomfortable and almost intolerable, and it may well be that Henry blacked out in that moment.
Why work in the smithy when you can work in my mill?
Doesn't really remember much of anything that was said. It all kind of blurred together into a jumble of noise, but he's pretty sure he just accepted a job with the miller.
The forge reminds me too much of what happened to my folks.
Henry was no stranger to millers, one even helped him get back on his feet. That said, Henry wasn't at all thrilled by what he just committed himself to. It was more than likely Henry would have to do some unsavory things to secure his invitation to that wedding. And as he stumbled away, his heart began racing. He felt sweaty and dizzy and...
Where the hell am I?
He had no idea how long he'd been lying there. But he found the strength to brush himself off and return to Hans about settling their debt.
Took your time coming back to me.
As if the day wasn't already kicking him from every possible direction, even his best friend refused to help him through.
Can't work. I'm a noble.
Ready to be done with this place, Henry got to work carrying the sacks for Betty.
More than you.
It seemed Hans, too, had reached his breaking point, and was now arguing with Svatia Thrush.
Lord of Bergstein.
Now, Henry knew Hans pretty well at this point, and he could tell Hans was past the point of reason.
Cut it out, both of you.
Not knowing how tolerant the locals will be with this belligerence, Henry decides to drink down some of his tonics in case this escalated beyond words. That instinct was very quickly justified as a fight breaks out at the Troskowitz Tavern. Henry wasn't interested in fighting, but his duty was clear. Despite Hans's refusal to help Henry with the sacks, he would help Hans by taking out as many of the brawlers as he could manage. There never really was any chance of them winning that fight, but Henry certainly put in the work. And come to think of it, Henry always seems to be the one putting in the work. Despite being friends, the power dynamics between the two kept Henry in an inferior position. Emotions running high and energies running low, the pair exchange words that can never be unsaid.
Farewell.
After the dust settled, Henry found himself alone, in a strange place, having lost the last bit of family he had to rely on.
If I were in your shoes, I'd be glad to be rid of the good for nothing, eh?
As Henry adjusts to the here and now, I'd like to discuss the future. I've put a lot of hours into this game, but truth be told, I've never actually beaten it. In pursuit of creating early game guides for all of you, I've replayed the beginning of this game more times than I can count. But beyond a handful of side quests, I know very little about what lies ahead. I've not yet set eyes upon Kuttenberg or even been inside Trotsky Castle. In fact, before this playthrough, even the wedding in Samine and the tasks that lead up to it have been unknown to me. I have no idea how many times I might be forced to violate the rules of this challenge run. And so, with that in mind, I'd like to establish one final rule going forward. If, while in service of progressing the main story, I must do that which must not be done, Henry will first get dangerously drunk before doing whatever best honors the lore we've created. With that, fellow Henrys, I thank you for giving my content the time of day, and I hope to see you soon for the next Henry Unforged.